He has a large body of academic, research, and professional experience. He's the head of the University of Applied Sciences, Northwestern Competence Center, IT Management and Government Center. He's developed and organized a master program in business information systems in collaboration with the Ho Chi Minh City University of Technology. Along with his academic activities, he's been involved in consulting along the fields of technology, providing him with opportunities of generating synergies between research and consulting. He has identified important applications of Chinese philosophy and current policy and decision-making. He has many contributions in exploring the possibility of Yijing-based methodologies. With that, he is presenting today Updating Antique Chinese Knowledge. Dr. Felley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to invite you to share big trips in time. So we want to go back in time about 3,000 years in the whole of China, and hopefully then we will come back again safely to Orlando. So it's a question about what do we do when we do science? When we do science, we are telling stories. We are telling stories about atoms, they collapse and build molecules, molecules collapsing together and building cells. So we are telling stories about electrons speeding up through wire and so on. So our Western science is a big set of very interesting and powerful stories. With these stories, we can send rockets to the moons and get them back into the Earth. We can build a smartphone, we can build TVs, we can build planes, anything. But there is also a very powerful way of telling stories. And this is this way, we call it the Yijing, which was developed 3 years ago, even very powerful method of telling stories about the world. So, I will just first explain what the Yijing means. So, Yijing was a book. It belongs to the famous group of the 5 classics. So, in the Ming time and King dynasties, if you wanted to get a job at the emperors, you had to know profoundly the method of Yijing. What does it mean? Yijing, Yi means change. And it consists of 2 symbols. So first we have a square with a bar in the middle. This means sun. It's a symbol for sun. And the second symbol just illustrates so raindrops falling. So the change in old China was the move from sunny day to rainy day, and again to sunny day and rainy day. Because at that time, the Chinese people was most of them farmers. So it was very important for the farmers to have this change between sunny days and rainy days. If you want to survive as a farmer, you need this change. And this change has to be natural and very easygoing. This is the first symbol of Yijing. And then we have the second one, very interesting, the Ying. So these symbols symbolize something like a network. And the second one means here we have a flow of energy, but this flow of energy is not visible. It's somehow below the earth, below the surface. And the third one is somewhat symbolizing a tool we can use for making something like building a house or something very useful object. So the Yijing means it is the change applied to do something we can really use in the everyday life. So, and to go ahead with this concept, the Chinese developed 2 concepts. They call it Yin and Yang. What does it mean, Yin and Yang? it's very easy to understand. Yin is what is going to become yang, and yang is what is going to become yin. So everyone for us is somehow a little bit yin, and then it will change to yang. And as soon as it's completely yang, it has to change to yin. And this change, these mutual changes, is endless. And everyone, every particles, every human beings, every plants, every stone, every atoms, every cells is participating to this perpetual change. Now, if we compare these pictures of the universe with the pictures we have developed in the classical mechanic, we see that at the Newtonian science, we have the space, we have times, and we have forces. This is a very profound and very strong concept, but it is the unconditional reign of causality. And then things change around the 20th centuries with the coming up of new elements, refreshing and tasty like revolutions. We developed the collective unconscious from Carl Gustav Jung. We developed the principle of synchronicity based on the ideas from Wolfgang Pauli, a very famous physicist, who won the Nobel Prize in 1932. We have the concept of morphic fields. Morphic fields are, to compare morphic fields with the fields we know, so we know the electromagnetic fields, we know the gravitational fields. All these fields are carrying energy, and morphic fields carrying information. And this is the big difference. So, and then we also have the wholeness and the implicate order, some theoretical concept developed by physicians David Bohm in the 80 years. And at least the quantum entanglement, stipulating that everything is connected with everything else. So at the end, we can just sustain our friend Sir Arthur Eddington, who states the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but it is stranger that we can imagine it. So now we have to collapse all and this is, of course, the causality nightmare. Because in these fields, we cannot work any longer only using causality principles. For example, synchronicity principle, what is that? We are used to think in causality terms. So something happens, then it will be some reactions of what has happened. This is the causality. Synchronicity tells you there are very, very much events which are connected together not by causality, but because it makes sense. And it is something revolutionary for the Western way of thinking. And then, something different from the Yijing. So we are used to work on a two-value logic. Something is wrong or something is true. So, and for that, we have this binary values, so yin and yang. But for the Yijing, it is not enough differentiated. So we need to consider a higher granular complexity. And we then define these four pictures, or bigrams. So we have the old yin, the young yin, the young yang, and the old yang. This is to express more precisely the change between yin and yang. So between yin and yang, we have the phase of, you are young yin or old yang, and then you just converse into the opposite. So we see here we also have four elements, and basically the number 4 has a very big impact of our universe. It is something like indicating a limit to the complexity we are able to manage or to understand. For examples, we have the 4 space-time dimensions, so 3 space dimensions and 1 time dimensions in the physics world. In the mathematics, when we consider these kinds of equations, we call it algebraic equations, degree 4. So for these equations and for algebraic equations with degree 3 and 2, we have algorithmic solutions. So we understand very well how to solve it. If we consider algebraic equations of degree higher than 4, we do not have any model. We do not understand how to solve them. So also in the mathematics, the number 4 is setting a limit, what we can understand. Further, in our physics, we also have 4 basic interactions. We know the gravitations, we know the electromagnetic force, we know the weak force, and the strong interactions. And more, the DNA. So every of us is made with, say, a big amount of DNA sequences. Every plant, every tree, every leaf. And all the DNA based on 4 basic molecules we call uracil, cytosine, adenine, and guanine. In the life, we also have a most important 4 elements. So the carbon, oxygens, hydrogen, and azote. So the number 4 is very something fundamental in our reality. And we found it the same times in the Yijing, so 3,000 years ago, in comparisons with the modern technology we have. So this is just to make some comparisons. Now, okay, this is comparisons with the 4 big rams and the corresponding molecules, and then the 64 DNA molecules we use to build up any DNA sequences. So now we should go deeper in the structures of the Yijing, and we look at the network structures of the hexagrams. The Chinese also developed something like a space. So they call it the space, but it is more abstract realizations. It's a concept, an abstract concept, and the Chinese call them, we have 4 dimensions, the south, the north, the east, and the yang. And they have some allocations. So here we have the old yang, we have the young yin, the old yin, and the young yang. All these principles are changing each other. So we have emotions. So this means what, for examples, what is true today, tomorrow maybe not really true. It's something like we have these 4 logics. So yes, no. Or it is not yes, it's neither yes, neither no. Or it is false and wrong in the same times. And this is the very sophisticated logics based on the Yijing. And then we can go further and we develop each subdomain. We also make 4 subdomains in the subdomain. So we have the east-south, east-west, east-east, and east-north. So and then we can populate all these subdomains with these 4 pictures to illustrate the fractal dimensions in the universe. So fractal means we are able to find in the little part the big part, and in the big part we have the same information than in the little part. So this fractal dimension is also an integrated part of the Yijing. If we go further, so we just give the graphics, and at the end we have 16 figures in this domain, and each figure is called an hexagram. So you don't have to follow or to understand anything I'm talking today because it's a lot of information. But I will tell you what points you have to remember to understand the final pictures. So we can do the same for the 3 remaining domains. And then we get the big pictures of the whole space filled up with 64 hexagrams. And any hexagrams tells a story. So in any hexagram we have 6 lines. The first line is a yang line, alternating with the yin line, and yang line, and yin line, and yang line, and yin line. So this is the dynamic of an hexagrams. We have the lower trigram and the upper trigrams. And then, very basically, very important in comparisons with the Western science, we have three parts. We have below the two first line correspond to the earth. In the middle, we have the human. And on the top, we have the heaven. So in the Yijing models, the man is part of the universe. So we can influence the universe, and the universe can influence us. And this result is confirmed by the modern physics, where we know what we observe is manipulated by the observer. And what we observe is more or less decisions. We can influence the observed quantities. So it's a big interchange between the outer world and the inner world. And this concept, we know this concept in Europe and in the Western since about 1910, 1920, and the old Chinese knew that already 3,000 years ago. So, now, each hexagram tells a specific story intimately related to all the other hexagram stories. So it is a network. We have seen in the first pictures, we have a big networks, flowing informations we can use to react, to act on the everyday life. So here we have some examples of hexagrams, very important. I mean, every hexagram is important, but these four we use for the later results. You recognize the Korean flag, and these three grams are very basic because we have the hexagram number 1 is the creative. It's pure yang. It's very strong, very creative, but it gets exhausted very fast. Then we have the contrary, is the receptive, pure yin hexagrams. It's something like motherhood. The number 2 is hexagram which is able to bring achievement, very long-lasting, suffering. And then we have the two last hexagrams, the 63. This is after completion. These hexagrams correspond to situations where everything is perfect. So we have also the right distribution of lines. But what does it mean if everything is perfect, but everything has to change? That's the problem of 63. You feel very perfect, but you have to change. So you have to leave these perfect situations. And the theory of the 63 is to teach you how can you go from a very perfect situations, but because it is a very basic rules, everything has to change. So the perfections has to go down. And what way do you choose to suffer less? And then we have the number 64. This is before completions. So after everything is broken down, because everything changed, so after the breaking down, you have to start again. And this concept of 63 and 64 is a very fantastic concept. If you look, there are, well, we come later to this point because you don't have I don't give you the information enough to understand it. So, but we have the four very important hexagrams, 1, 2, creation, strong, energy, and number 2, receptive. So the ability to suffer, to have some endurance, and to last in the times. And then the 63, everything is perfect. Say bye-bye to this because it changed. And then the 64. 63 is something like maximal entropy. And 64 is negentropy. So you have to inject some new energy in the chaos. So, nuclear hexagrams. Now I'm telling you some, we can organize the 64 hexagrams in some groups. We call them the nuclear hexagrams, the calendar hexagrams, and the pre- and post-event hexagrams. You do not have to understand completely how it functions, but it is my aim to explain you there is some rules beyond. For example, we take this 4 hexagram here, in the and if we look closer, you see that these hexagrams, the inner line, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth are the same, the same lines. So I take this one and this one. So I take the second line, the third line, and the fourth line, second, third, fourth, and then again the third, the fourth, and the fifth line. So it is a concentration of the inner lines. And we call the hexagram number 54 the nuclear hexagrams of the hexagram 11, 26, 18, and 46. So this means all these four hexagrams, they are sharing some common qualities. So we can build 16 family of nuclear hexagrams. It looks like this. So you will see later why it is so important to have these families. Then, this is to illustrate the nuclear family. So the red one, they are so-called the nuclear hexagrams. And then if we take the nuclear of the nuclear, we get again the four very important hexagrams. So here you have the number 1, the number 2, number 63, and 64. So key elements in this set of 64 hexagrams. So just remember, we can organize the 64 hexagrams in 16 family of nuclear hexagrams. The next one is the calendar hexagrams. So we look at the set of the 64 hexagrams and we consider this one, where we have blocks of yin and yang lines not overlapping. So, and we have exactly 12 calendar hexagrams. And when we organize them around, we see something like a year cycle. So here we have the winter, everything is frozen, nothing happens. And then we come starting again with the coming back. Here we have the 19, take care of what is coming up. And this one is telling you we are going to generate big prosperity. And we continue till we reach the maximal. So this is July, August, the mass power. And then things change, and we have at the end here against the yin line, growing up till the end. Here we have, so we have to forget about prosperity. Something is going wrong or differently. Here we have the number 20, which means we have to take some balance. We have to analyze what has been done. And here we think, okay, the cycle is closed. Now we have to prepare for a new cycle. And then we come down to the winter again. And this is endless. So we have these nuclear hexagrams describing the cycles. If it's 1 year, 1 week, 1 day, 1 minute, it doesn't really matter. But this is the principle of the change of a cycle. Now we have probably the most tricky concept here, the pre-even hexagrams. You see this, we have two pictures with the same trigrams, but in a different order. So we call this the Fuchsi organization. And this is what we call the King-Venn organizations. So for each hexagrams we can build the so-called pre-even hexagrams. We have this correspondence between hexagrams. So if I am in the post-even world, post-even hexagrams, I take these pictures and I look in the same place, the correspondences. So I can build up for every hexagrams, I have a corresponding pre-even hexagrams. Pre-even hexagrams is something like, in terms of business, something like we may call the crystal success factor. So if we have an hexagram is describing a situation. And if you want the situations being successful, then you have to fulfill some conditions. And these conditions you have to fulfill are contained in the pre-even hexagrams. Pre-even hexagram is something like the archetype of the other hexagrams. Archetype or the DNA or correspond to the implicate order of when. So it's very a key concept into old story about Yijing. So now if we look for examples, we take the hexagram number 1, so yang, creativity, strong. And in order to be successful in these situations of number 1, you have the pre-even hexagrams number 52. It's keeping still. So before you may be creative, you have to go intern, to think about, to stabilize your own emotions. And only then you will be able to be purely and successfully creative. Or the other examples, so 49. 49 is hexagrams called revolutions. It means something is going to change dramatically. For example, in France, we also had the revolutions. In Russia, we had revolutions. And number 5 is waiting. So wait till the time is mature enough to go to revolutions. If you are 2 days earlier, you will be killed. And 2 days later, it's too late. So you have to choose the right time for doing revolutions. And this is the meaning of Fuchsi or pre-even hexagram. So something like the concept before the concept. The last examples, 46 is grow. Is pushing a word. And if you want to be able to grow, so you need the number 61 indicating the inner, the self-esteem. The trusty, you have to develop a feeling for trust. Trust the other, trust yourself, and only then you will be able to go pushing a word. So this is more or less the game of the post and pre-even hexagrams. If we look at the corresponding pictures, we see that after 4 iterations, we go back to the pictures. This means these relations between post-even and pre-even hexagrams also builds families. And we then also have 16 families of these pre-even hexagrams. If you don't really understand exactly what's going on, just believe me, it's true. So I see someone laughing. Well, you have to keep in mind, we have 2 big categories. We have the nuclear hexagrams and we have the pre-even hexagrams. And you just have to know there is not something arbitrary, but we have some rules to build the nuclear hexagrams and some rules to build the pre-even hexagrams. So there is nothing left to the hazard. There's a very strong mechanic beyond. In my article, I'm explaining these mechanics of cycling, but it will take too much time to go into details. So this means we have 16 family of Fuchsi, of pre-even and post-even hexagram. This just to show you, but it's not very important to understand. PDCA cycles. So, who has heard about PDCA cycle in this society? 1, 2, 3. So a very eclatant majority knows about PD. It's called plan, do, check, act. And this is a basic management method for assuring process development and process quality. So first you have to plan what you want to do. Then you have to implement what you want to do. And after implementations, you have to check if the results you have achieved corresponds to what you wanted to achieve. If not, then you have to do some corrections. Act. So now we can do this like a cycles. And of course, basically, we have 4 domains: plan, do, check, act. But if we spend the same times in planning than we spend in doing, something is wrong. So we can align or organize these 4 logical functions in times, and then we reach this one. So we have a time to plan. This is usually in the winter. And then we start doing something. And then towards the end of summers, we have to check. Did we get apples we wanted to get? Did we get the money we wanted to get or not? And then we do something to correct the process we have been using for that. So now you see more or less the games, then we can apply the calendar hexagrams to this PDA process. So I just take the two pictures and collapse together. Okay? This is the same, and now I rearrange a little bit the hexagrams, just for graphical reasons. So, and now, so, on the left side here, I take the green one, or the corresponding pre-even hexagrams of the gray one. So, we have the 39 is the pre-even hexagrams of the 43s. For that, I've been using the method I showed you before. And on the right side, I do the same. Okay, done. Again, here I take the nuclear hexagram of the 93s, and the same. Okay, and what you see here, we have the number 64 at this side. And then if we go to the other sides, I have one step more, and I get the number 63. And at the end, I can complete it. So, and this is the pictures we get at the end. And this is a very surprising pictures, because here we are starting with nothing. And we get all this branch, we get number 64. So this is corresponding in the Yijing language. We have to start from the chaos and to construct a new order. And this is exactly what happened here. We are planning, we are implementing the things, we are pushing up, and this is directed by number 64. On the other side, on the descending branch, is 63. When we are up to the point, everything is perfect. And this corresponds exactly to number 63. And then we go down till we start again. So, and then if you look, something very interesting, look at the number 39. Do you see the lines? And here, number 38. This is exactly opposite. Here we have a yang line, a yin line. Here it is a yang, and so on. Take the number 56, and here we also have the opposite. So these symmetries we have in the cycle of PDCA is completely, entirely in the Yijing logic. So this is what I would say. The Western science of management is telling stories about how we have to manage quality, how do we have to manage processes. And the Yijing, this whole story, based on 3,000 years ago, tells exactly the same stories, but using different wording in this case. So it is completely legitimate to believe that we also have the same similarity for different questions. So if it's functioned here with such a high sophisticated logic, so it has to be fulfilled in other fields too. So this is my statement. So I'm working with the Yijings for now more than 40 years. So I have a lot of experience, and I can assure you that Yijing is something very, very, very powerful. Now, the question is, how it functions? The Yijings, we don't know how it functions. At the same time, nobody knows why quantum mechanics functions. Nobody knows why the Earth is bumping in the night. But we know how it functions. We can use quantum mechanics, and we know how Yijing functions, even if we don't understand why, but we can use it. So, and my prayer to you is we are all together here because we want to change some things. So, and the Yijing, the second name of Yijing is the Book of Change. The Book of Change is explaining you the way things are going to change in the world. And if you really want to change some things, I ask you to help me to deploy the Yijings, not only in my brain, but to everyone. So that will be my final statement. I hope you have enjoyed the trip through the time, and we are all back again in Orlando. Thank you so much for your attention.